Live look at the White House in Washington. The legal challenge to President Trump's early actions brought by federal workers and advocacy groups are now piling up. Experts believe the Trump administration is doing something called judge shopping. That is, to have a case tried in a certain district court and one that falls under the jurisdiction of a U.S. appeals court with a certain political makeup. Now, this is important because plaintiffs suing the federal government do not have to establish a local geographic connection to the district where they are filing that lawsuit.
We want to bring in Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes to talk about this. Khalif, this isn't just a Trump thing. It's not a Republican-Democrat thing. This is a known practice where you kind of cherry pick which judge is going to give me the best chances, right?
It happens in all types of different types of practices for the law. I mean, in the criminal practice, you're looking at the docket when they send it out on the local level, and you're saying, well, what judge will be in court that week? And you're trying to say, well, if it's a judge that's not going to rule favorably for my client for DWI or for some type of, nonviolent crime, I may want to push it for another week and maybe get a judge that will rule in my favor. In the civil manner, it's the same exact way. And when we're talking about these federal courts, it's a whole different process because I can pick a court in the middle of nowhere in Texas or pick a court in North Carolina or New York, depending on the judge, and not just the specific judge that will hear my case there, but thinking larger picture, what court of appeals, which one of the 13 districts of the Court of Appeals will be able to hear my case after that court makes a decision. So I could even be smarter. I can say, hey, I know I'm going to pick a district court judge that's going to rule against me. Why? Because I know the Court of Appeals in that specific district will rule in my favor, and it's not as likely to go up to the Supreme Court. So I've already thought 3 steps down the line. This is an extreme game of chess that they're playing, and I can say that this is not something new. It is not something that is partisan, but it is something that is extremely rampant, that is happening on a routine basis because we're seeing more filings in the courts right now with the things that are happening with this administration.
So is there not a way, or is there already a process going on of more like a random case assignment? Is there not a way to put that into practice so that people aren't cherry picking? Say, hey, we're going to throw it in. It's a random, draw it out of the hat type of thing.
So there can be a random assignments. I did my clerkship in Michigan in the United States District Court there. And so there were multiple U.S. district courts within that courthouse. I clerked for Denise Page Hood, one of the judges, not the chief district. They did have a random district selection where a case would get filed and then it would randomly go to any judge that was next up on the docket. However, that doesn't stop me as the person that's filing from determining where I file my case at. And that's the determination. So I decide that I don't want to file it in Michigan. I want to file it in Texas. There's no random process for that. So if I can find a jurisdiction in Texas that maybe only has one judge, then it doesn't matter if it's random because it will land on that one judge's docket every time. So that's the problem. And you got to even think bigger picture than this. Folks always think Supreme Court. Well, they only hear 100 cases a year. You think these U.S. courts, district courts, they hear about 50,000 cases. So those are where the important cases are being heard because they're making the determination of what goes up to the Supreme Court.
Khalif, people see this and they say, okay, the system's broken. How do you fix it?
I'm not sure if it's broken. I think it's built in for that process. You got to look at it like this. These are lifetime appointed judges first, and these are politically appointed judges. And why I don't like the notion that these judges are Obama appointed or Trump appointed, they are appointed by a person that was at the president of the time that was either a Democrat or Republican. Right. And while they attempt to make sure that they have their integrity, they are, leaning towards one side or the other, and that's what the folks are hoping that are filing. This person was appointed by Trump. Hopefully he leans my way. But that's the gamble that you risk because sometimes you file it in that jurisdiction and you don't get that. So now you have to look at their history. You have to look at how they've ruled in the past. And so the system is working like it's supposed to work. I've seen some attempts at legislation to say we should get rid of this process and have one place where people file appeals and it's only a panel of 3 judges. I think that would be unconstitutional. Now because the people that you have in your jurisdiction won't get an opportunity to hear any case, it'll just be 3 folks sitting in D.C. It'll kind of be like a mini Supreme Court. Now having these different U.S. district court judges in these many different jurisdictions give them an opportunity to hear unique cases that are set for their jurisdictions. I think it's how this system is supposed to work.
I'm surprised you said that. I just assumed, this is the outsiders that aren't in the legal world every day like you. I assumed you were going to say this is broken, it needs to be fixed.
I try to surprise you every day. That's my goal.
You do it every day. Khalif, 4 times today this morning. Thank you for blowing our minds with your legal expert advice. We actually do really appreciate it.